Hello, everyone. It's me again, Travis Booker, the co-founder and president of the Golden Door Foundation, and we're here with another installment of the Golden Spotlight interview series. Today, I have with me Miss North America, Deja Vaughn, has decided to join us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good myself. We would like to start out with just, introduce yourself to the people, letting them know where you're from, who you are, what you do, and we'll get started from there.
All right. Well, hello, guys. I recently just got crowned Miss North America about 2 weeks ago. So this is still fairly new, but I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, but specifically a little area called Mauldin. And if you drive outside of Mauldin, about 20 minutes, you're in Greenville. So I always like to just say Greenville, South Carolina. But I went to Mauldin High School there, and that's when I decided to go to USC Upstate. So I went there for my first 2 years of school, then decided to transfer to the University of South Carolina. So I moved down to Columbia, which is where I stay now. And after graduating, I worked for one company before working where I am now, which is called eBright. And it's just a tech company that fixes computers for the school districts in Columbia, South Carolina. And I do most of their admin and parts specialist work. And outside of that, with the title of Miss North America, this is my part-time job. And with that, I do a lot of charity work, advocacy, nonprofiting, and things along the line of that.
Okay, so yeah. Seems like we got a lot to cover today. Thanks for that introduction. So we'll kind of jump into your background. You said you were from Mauldin, South Carolina. Now, I've heard of that place, but I haven't been. I have been to Greenville, but could you explain how it was growing up in that area and maybe what high school was like?
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, Mauldin is a little small sector. Everyone knew each other there. Driving about 20 minutes outside of Mauldin, you're in Greenville already. So really, it's really just a part of Greenville. And so I went to Mauldin High School, and that high school was pretty big. It was pretty nice. I'm very grateful for the education that I did get there. As far as like where I grew up and I didn't really have any physical or like outside problems or difficulties. Most of my difficulties came from internally. So I had a lot of internal struggles. Where I grew up in a predominantly kind of like white area, and my school was predominantly white as well. So, as you grow up, everything that's pushed towards you is against everything that you are. So I really had that self-acceptance struggle. And it wasn't until I got out of Mauldin, out of Greenville, and, came to Columbia, came into myself, did some self-discovery where, I have more self-acceptance. Of course, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. Still working on, continually doing the self-love, but it's become better, and it's a lot easier than it was when I was younger. But, yeah, that's how it was in Mauldin. Mm-hmm. And what else did you say?
What was it like going to Mauldin High? But you answered that question.
Okay. Yeah, Mauldin was nice. I'm very grateful. It was a very nice school. I can say that I'm grateful because of some of the other schools in our area. So yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. It was home of the Mavericks. So it was a Maverick.
Okay. And then you said you went to USC Upstate. So what led to that decision? Did you want to be close to home in Mauldin, or was there something else?
So I don't know. When I think about this now, I always sold myself short and was kind of scared to push myself to branch out and to go for things. So USC Upstate just seemed like I was scared of denial and feared rejection. So going to USC Upstate and being accepted, that was the first school I was accepted in. I was just like, yeah, this will be where I'll go. It's close to everything. Most of my friends that I surrounded myself with were going to. Mm-hmm. So I went there, and my first 2 years were fine. It wasn't until the second year my surroundings and the people I was around made my decision to go to USC because I was just around a lot of the same people, and the energy, a lot of negative drama and stuff that came out of high school still followed me, and I really wanted to let that go. It wasn't until my second year I realized how toxic it was, and how in order to grow and to develop into a better person, I really needed to let go of all that. So I decided to apply and transfer to USC Columbia, and I got in, and I was so happy to just get away and also get away from home. I'm not one to be like a homebody and to stay at home and wanted to stay here. It's just how things worked out to be. But it wasn't because I wanted to be home or anything. It just is what was familiar at the time and who I was around, who was like influencing my decision.
Okay, so that was a product of you growing, like you said, getting out of your comfort
Sure.
zone.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, and then going to USC, how was that for you? So, going from Mauldin to Upstate and realizing it was toxic and still, trying to grow. What was that like going to USC and how did things change for you?
When I went to USC, there, it's a melting pot, of course, and you have a lot of people coming from different states and different areas, and even the foreign exchange students, like meeting a lot of different people with different perspectives and different outlooks on life really interested me. And that's okay. So that's where I discovered myself more. Maybe like my second semester at USC, meeting new people, different classes, and joining new clubs and organizations and stuff on campus, I made a decision to go natural, which is a big thing for a woman of color. As you grow up, we, like I said, self-acceptance, what we see in the media, what's told to us day in and day out. I decided to go natural and really have the full essence and glory of who I am, while also becoming more conscious, like health conscious, and taking care of my body. I also decided to go plant-based when I was in school too, veganism. And I've been on these two different journeys, which are also interconnected, for about 5 years. So that's something that I can say that came out of that, all because I branched out and met new people who were enlightening me to these new ideas and how their life is, because where I grew up, these things they weren't even heard of or talked about. So I'm very grateful for the people that I met, and going to USC, like I said, melting pot with different ideas and ideologies and stuff really helped me to get to where I am right now.
Right. I agree with you on that one because I came from a predominantly black school and went to USC as a PWI. So I know it was like, for me, a culture shock. And, you mentioned the melting pot. So all those things work pretty well together. But then I want to ask you, what major did you study while you were at USC?
Oh, yeah. So I've changed my major a couple of times. Well, I'll just start when I was at Upstate. My first major was pre-med biology. I quickly learned after one day, one of the biology classes, that was not for me. So then after that, I decided to do a little bit of broadcast journalism while still at Upstate. And although looking back, I should have stuck with that, my major afterwards kind of developed into a little bit of what that is. But I decided after that to go into education. And so keep in mind that it's not that I was changing my major. I was changing my mind because, the first 2 years and you're taking a lot of the prerequisites and things. So you're not taking a lot of the core classes you need. So all of the majors I was trying to transition into and have my mind made up for, the prerequisites worked for all of them. So I was changing my mind more than the major itself. But when I got to USC, I was still with education stuff. And then I decided that, no, that's not what I wanted to do. And like I said, it was a new sector, meeting new people. So I decided I wanted to major in fashion merchandising. And then I wanted to be in the journalism school. The J school is what they call it at USC. And at first I was PR, but decided to do visual communications, which was one of the newer majors there. And when I decided to go into that major, I had to stay another year because of what they required. I didn't have under my belt. So I had to take more classes to be able to in that major. But visual communications just entails videography, photography, Adobe programming, and just learning the ins and outs of marketing and how to effectively visually communicate. Because now more than ever, a lot of people, especially with the COVID that's going on, people are looking at screens day in and day out.
Right.
And I really think being able to push and market and brand online and virtually is super important to have under your belt. So that's what I decided to go for and what I decided to do.
Okay. And what type of challenges did you go through while you were changing your major? Like, I know you spoke about the prerequisites to have, but were there any other challenges you had to go through? Because I don't think most kids considering changing their major, they have one major in mind, they think they're going to stick with that. So how was that challenge?
It was rough. I mean, me growing up, I'm a very indecisive person by nature. Just because what I want to do, I'm also a big visionary. So when I see something, I have a vision, I like to be very perfect about how I go about it and how everything turns out. And I know learning now that that's not, I would be naive to think that everything is going to go perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I always had in my head. Like everything had to go perfect. And if it didn't, then I just needed to stop doing it or just change it completely. But when you're young and you're growing, they say, your mind doesn't stop doesn't stop developing until you're 26, right? And I'm 25 now. And as I'm like 18, 19, still like growing up, I was in my teens, my mind is not made up. And I just don't think it's fair for someone to have their mind made up completely at that young. So, I mean, there were some difficulties just because when it comes to parents, they want you to be decisive. They want you to have everything figured out. At least my parents did, because I am a first generational graduate student who graduated.
Right.
So I'm the first one to be able to go off and do these things and to actually stick it through and finish it. And they have their thoughts and ideas of how it should be, what I should be doing, and they haven't gone through the process themselves. So they don't know that. So I had the pressure from them, the pressure from myself, and what society was telling me. So, I mean, yeah, it was difficult, and I'm not going to lie, not a walk in the park.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of days where I cried, a lot of days of self-doubt, but, I stuck it through and made it out, because in the end, it all does work out how it should.
Now to, I guess, the main event, how did you get involved with pageantry and becoming Miss North America? How was that journey? Where was your start and how has it been?
So, this is my second pageant that I did for Miss North America, but I did do one pageant when I was in university for a fraternity. It was Miss Black and Gold, which I'm sure some people know about, for Alpha Kappa Psi, and I really don't want to say their fraternity wrong. It's been a while for me, but it's for the Alphas, for anyone who may be watching and know who they are. And that was my pretty much my first time getting that experience with pageantry, and I never thought this is where I would end up at all. So, of course, people have this surface view of what pageantry is, which is, the glitz, the glam, you're pretty, you take a crown and a sash, da-da-da-da. But behind the scenes, before getting involved, like in my actual first pageant, I, was doing some behind the scenes charity work. And I also had a mission, for myself to educate people on sustainable and ethical living. I met a girl who I used to work with. I used to work in an escape room while I was in school. And she did pageantry, and she was telling me how, you'd be really good in pageants. I see how you interact. I see your goals and your values, and I really think you would do well in the system, which was the North America pageant system. And at first I kind of just wrote it off like, okay, I'm not a pageant girl, but I decided to go for it as I kept seeing things being posted about it and people talking about it. And in January of 2020 is when I won the state preliminary title as Miss South Carolina North America. So that was just the first step to going on to Miss North America. And when I won that, I really couldn't believe that I was going to win at all, but it ended up working out how it should. And so while working that title, I really learned, I had a lot of self-development and personal development that came out of it. Learning who I am, what I stand for, where I choose to serve others was the biggest thing that came out of it. There's so many benefits, but when I won the state title, I was able to network with different people in my community that I don't think I ever would have had the chance to meet or talk to if I didn't have the title. So really having this title opens up a lot of doors where, people hear, oh, Miss North America, oh, Miss South Carolina, da, 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 da. They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. And that's when you get the chance to shine on whatever passions and values that you have and how they could possibly help, especially those who are involved in the industry. So, I've been able to meet a lot of cool people, networked, and work with different charities and be an advocate and lend my voice to their cause. And that's what was my main goal that came out of it. It's just working in my community, especially for the youth, being the representation, being that person, that symbol that shows that, hey, if you go after something and you believe wholeheartedly in what you do, it will work out for you in the way it should. And so 2 weeks ago, of course, the COVID stuff is still happening. We had to navigate that in a different way for the pageant, but it still worked out. Safety precautions were taken, and ended up winning the title as Miss North America. And with that, and that's why I call it my part-time job, because I'm constantly trying to stay involved, stay active in different communities, and just really lend my voice and to work. Before COVID happened, I was working for Transitions, which is a food-based service that helps out the homeless people in Columbia, while also doing the MRC program, which is Midlands Reading Consultorium, which you get students and you sit down with them and read to them every day and tutor them. And I was also doing another food-based service as well, while with the state title before COVID happened. And I was doing these things strategically because I'm trying to work on my own nonprofit now, which is called It's More Than Food. And it's really just to have or provide the resources, support, and knowledge for healthy and sustainable food, while also educating others on their carbon footprint and how they can get involved now. And really just being ethical and sustainable is super important to me, no matter how it is or how small the steps are. Anything to get us to where our earth and how our environment should be is super important to me. And all that came out of branching out into pageantry. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. That sounds really exciting.
I'm talking so much.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I love it. So, you said it's a part-time job. You classify it as a part-time job, but it really sounds like, a full-time job to me. But I kind of want to get into the backbone of it, I guess, before we kind of talk about your community involvement a little bit more in depth. But, you speak about representation for everyone, but what type of work actually goes into, applying for this, running, like the practice and things of that nature? Because I feel like you have to have some skill and talents, obviously, to actually win this.
Yeah, so in this specific system, they don't require you to have a talent, which I think is super, it takes a lot of stress out on girls who do want to branch into pageantry, who don't feel like they have a talent. I do think that everyone does have a talent that maybe they don't feel is good enough for them, but we are our hardest critics. But in this system specifically, you don't have to have that. Really, it's about your interview and what you stand for. If you're able to, people say that in pageantry, you win in the judges' interview room. There's the interview, there's swimsuit, which is a conflict of interest on some sides, and there's the evening gown. And an interview is where it's your time to shine, your time to speak out on what's important to you and show the judges why you deserve to be there. Everything else that comes after that, on being on stage, the glitz and glam, is just to show if you're able to carry yourself in a professional and well-respected manner, which is not hard to do, but that it is a competition. All of it is a competition. And I think pageantry is kind of transforming more into how well you can speak, how well you're able to represent. And because really when you are a title holder, you are an ambassador for whatever the system stands for, or whatever you stand for. So you're able to speak well, and you're able to go out and network, and you're not scared to speak and lend your voice to different things. I think pageantry is for you. But with that's not to say that those who are scared or who doesn't feel like, they have the right words to speak, that doesn't mean that they can't branch, because like you said, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. So people work with different pageant sponsors, coaches, runway coaches, interview coaches. And with me, I didn't have to use any of those things. I really just used my own resources. I use a lot of YouTube and a lot of friends who competed in pageantry. As far as walking and all those things go, you can choose to learn those things on your own, or you can choose to go to a coach. Of course, pageantry is not like a low budget friendly ordeal. It can add up and can be very expensive. But if you are fortunate enough to have the funds to be able to, kind of branch into this sector, I definitely do say go for it. There are budget-friendly ways to be involved in pageantries. When I first started, I looked for a lot of low-budget ways. I mean, it does work for anybody, I say, if you're willing to invest the time into doing so. But, yeah, I think pageantry can be for anyone.
Cool. And so now into the community involvement, you already hit on some of those things, but I guess first is, you said you want to lend your voice, and I guess you have a platform now. So why do you think it's important that you use that platform to help out with all these community endeavors that you pursue?
When I won that state preliminary title, I realized when I started going to different events and making appearances, when you are in communication with the people who are these certain events, when you speak in your community, especially where I've been at, people listen. And I noticed that when I did start speaking, or they wanted me to say a few words, just how the crowd interacted as a young person. And a lot of the events that I was going to were a lot of children look like me. So when I noticed that when I spoke and I, were able to say a couple of things and people were listening to me and really looking up to what I was saying, I knew that my voice had an impact. And this title was helping me with that. And everyone has an opinion. Everyone can say something, but it's like how you use that impact, or how you use those words and what you want to do to influence people. And I don't think a lot of people realize. Everyone knows that a title holder does have influence in a certain way, although this system isn't as big as like Miss America, or Miss Universe. I still do have a voice. And so when I realized that I had that, I wanted to be very conscious about how I used it and be strategic on how I speak to certain people or what I wanted to say. And so really I'm pushing sustainable and ethical living, but also lending my voice to different advocacies in my community, because I don't just stand with one thing. As Miss North America, I don't represent just one community or one person. I represent a multitude of people. And so I really wanted to use my voice for the greater good and speak out on any advocacy that could help anyone. And I realized that I could make a difference. Yeah.
I guess, is there any last thing you want to say, any lasting message you want to give? We mostly try to show these videos to students. So I guess for our younger audience, is there anything you'd like to share with them?
For sure. As a young person, we've all been in your shoes. I've been in your shoes. I know Travis has been in your shoes. And I know how it can be a struggle with someone who does look like us. Although in the media we are seeing that things are starting to change and we're starting to try and educate and keep the conversation going and make others aware of our experience. And not all of us go through the same experience. I may not have the same thing or have gone through the same thing you have, and you may not have gone through the same experiences or things that I've gone through. But it doesn't mean you can't reach the same goal that I have or anyone else around you has made it to, if that's where you want to be. But I really just want to say to take the time to focus on yourself, going within, focusing on yourself, and that's how you're going to find out where you want to be in life. I am a big spiritual person, and when I say spiritual, I don't mean spiritual, I mean spiritual within, with self. So just taking the time, like I said, to go within, doing self-care and focusing on what you want to do. And I know some of this may sound cliche, but as cliche as it may sound, it's super important. I used to think the same thing when I was in your shoes when people would tell me this, but it is really important to focus on those things. And in time, everything will fall into place as it should. The universe or God, the Holy One, whatever you may call that, if you believe in a higher power, is always on your side. And things do happen like they should, whether good or bad, but it's either teaching you a lesson or either way, you're going to learn from it. And I really think just take everything in and be open to different perspectives, be open to different ideas. Don't one little box, because that's where you can hurt yourself, and branch out into other things. As people of color, you're going to have people in your community who mock you and who may try to knock you down. And then it comes from the other end, from people who are outside of your skin complexion or out of your, I don't know why the word's not coming to me, but
culture.
Yeah, that's good. But just know their opinions don't matter. And honestly, they don't know your story. They don't know your journey. Only you do. And at the end of the day, when everything is all said and done, only you can tell your story and journey and tell it the way you want it to be. So that's what I leave.
That's great advice. And I hope they take that to heart, because that's really great.
I hope. Yeah, it helped me. So I really hope it helps anyone out there too.
Right. And so that's all the questions that I have for you today. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm super grateful I can get on here and speak. Of course. We were glad to have you, gracing us with your majesty. Right on. But thank you. Yeah. So that's all I have. And hopefully everyone out there enjoyed watching this video. That has been another episode of the Golden Spotlight interview series. See you. Bye.